Welcome to the Saddleback College Emeritus Institute's conversation with film director Mr. Edoardo Ponti, recorded on March 19, 2021. The mission of the Saddleback College Emeritus Institute is to promote lifelong learning by providing academically rigorous, mentally stimulating, socially engaging, and health-improving courses for older adults throughout South Orange County. The panelists for this event included Saddleback College faculty and administrators from both the Fine Arts and Media Technology Division and the Emeritus Institute. We hope that you enjoy this recording of our conversation with Mr. Edoardo Ponti.
It's an honor to have you here, and bravo and congratulations on the wonderful success of your beautiful and poignant film, The Life Ahead.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here, very pleased.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, our students would really appreciate learning more about your journey as an artist up to this point. So if you could share that with them, that would be wonderful.
I think that the journey of an artist, starts when you're born. What are the things that you are drawn to? What are the things that you're willing to sacrifice, that you're willing to risk in order to fulfill that part of you? If you have a plan B, better to pick plan B, because the plan A, if plan A is a life of arts, it is a very difficult life. It is a very challenging life, but at the same time, it's an extremely rewarding life. And so, it's a question that has as many answers as there are artists, and it's a question that which answer I could change, every day of the week and every day of the year, because it changes as your itinerary as an artist changes. It took me, I made my first movie about 20 years ago, and it took me 20 years to just get on the map. And it happened this year with this movie. Have I changed as an artist in 20 years? Absolutely. Have I matured? Absolutely. But the heart is the same as 20 years ago. The soul is the same as 20 years ago. But it's about refining those things and finding a way to express them in a way that is as accurate as possible, so that people can invest in these stories emotionally. So it's a very special period of my life, and I'm glad that I didn't have a plan B.
I'm glad too. We all are, because emotional truth is so much a part of your storytelling, and so appreciated. I have just a couple more questions, and one is for our students who are interested in going to film school. If you could share with us your experience at USC and how the film school program is structured.
Yeah. I think that what's wonderful about film school is that you are with fellow young men and women who share this passion, this interest in filmmaking. And a lot of the education comes from the, sidebar conversations about film that we all have together. That's very, very, very important. What's also very important is to have a place where you can make as many mistakes as possible. Because the more mistakes you do early on in your career, the less mistakes you will do later in your career. And that's also very, very important. Use that as a forum to risk, use that as a forum to fall, use that as a forum to learn how to get back up. Because so much of this profession is about learning how to get back up and getting back up as quickly as possible. When you're faced with a disappointment, when you're faced with what you perceive is a failure, some of, many people at that point, and me included, tend to paralyze themselves and tend to feel like they are stuck in that feeling of failure. And it is very important to get back on the horse as quickly as possible, because only then can you learn from what you've just experienced and then apply it.
So with this tenacity and resilience that you developed in the film program with your colleagues and classmates, did that inspire takehollywood.com?
Yes, yes, it inspires, it inspires the desire to share one's insight in this, to help people, to help support people when they lack that support, and the truth is, we're all in this together, when we endeavor to lead a life of artistic ambition, and so we have to support each other.
Could you also share with us your experience with the film festivals?
Film festivals are really wonderful, because for 2 weeks, 10 days, you are in the cocoon of what you love. You're in this film bubble, which I think is wonderful. I think it's also very important to balance film festivals with life in general. There are some people who make a career going from one festival to another, and they forget to live. And unless you live, unless you actually experience the real world and real people and real issues, what are you going to write about? And I think it's very, very important to, as a filmmaker, to celebrate and honor film festivals, but to celebrate and honor life even more, to open those windows, to let life in, because it's only then that you are inspired by issues and themes and notions that truly touch real people around the world. And that's what matters to me.
Yes, that balance is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you also share with us how you got your first film produced?
Through sheer will. It is true. I always had the good fortune of also liking to write, because really being a director is one of these kind of abstract professions that nobody quite knows what a director does, and yet a director does really everything. But a director without a script is nothing. So if you don't write, you are dependent upon the good graces and the generosity and the support of fellow writers to give you the opportunity to direct their script. If you write, it's easier, because you can develop an idea by yourself, and you don't have to count on or rely on anyone at first. So that was really the first step for me, is that I wrote my own script. Then it is sheer willpower. I mean, you can't take no for an answer. You have to find a way of getting your film made by any which way you can, and you have to believe in it. You have to know no one is best served by themselves. And so you have to find a way to, if you're not convincing to yourself, you will never be convincing to anyone. And so you have to build that sense of excitement, that passion that you already have inside, but you have to be able to express it. If you don't express that passion, you will not infect that passion onto other people, and nobody's going to commit to you. And so that's very, very important. Also understanding why someone should invest in your movie. That's very important. Don't take it for granted that because you like something, somebody else is going to like it. You can't take for granted the investment, the financial investment that people will put into your movie. You have to be the kind of person who wants to protect that investment. And if you authentically and honestly are such a person, then people with means will want to share that means to see your project through. but that's very, very important. And then to be able to, you know, uh, 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 um, express the fact that your film is a film that will have a certain global appeal, if it will, because of the themes that are touched upon in that movie. I think we are gravitating towards more and more towards a globalized, market. You know, the international market used to be maybe 20% of a film's gross. Now it's over 50. So films have to speak to everyone. That doesn't mean that you have to dilute the message of your movie so that everybody understands it. It's in fact the opposite. You have to dig even deeper into the granular aspects of that culture, because it is in the detail that you find the universality of those themes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your ethos and your process, because this will be so helpful to all our students. And now I'm going to hand this over to my wonderful colleague, Roxanne.
Right.
Signore Ponti, grazie per essere qui e parlare con noi, è un piacere.
Piacere per
And
me.
thank you so much for your wonderful film.
Thank you.
I was instantly intrigued at the movie's opening because Lola, a transgender mom, is speaking Spanish to her son. And then soon after, she sees Momo and she switches to Italian. And Momo, you know, is probably a refugee. And
Yes.
yes, and then shortly after, we meet Madame Rosa, who is an Italian Jewish Holocaust Auschwitz survivor. So that just got me right into the film. And I want to know what inspired you to explore these multicultural, multi-generational, and gender-specific themes.
You know, I was raised in a multilingual household. You know, when around the dinner table we speak three languages. We speak English, French, and Italian, and we go from one to the other according to what subjects, what topics we talk about, because certain languages are kind of lend themselves better to certain topics in our minds, right? So that's how it's always been for me. So for me to tell stories in more than one language is quite natural, really. So, as far as the age, really to kind of portray people of all ages in movies, that's something very special to me, because I had an older father. My father, when I was born, my father was born in 1911 and I was born in 1973. Do the math. He was 62 years older than me. Right. So for me, a person of a certain age is a person that I always see as a very important member of society, a productive member of society, somebody who is still very much an actor in his own life, in her own life. And the same goes for my mother. When I started shooting the movie with my mother, she was 85 years old. And there was never a question that her age would disrupt our ambition. It never did. It wasn't even a conversation. So I have the good luck and the good fortune of having two examples in my life of people that clearly have gone way past their retirement age, that never retired. And for them, the concept of their best years being behind them was completely an anathema. It was never something real. The best day of their life is always the next one, because it's always an opportunity. Legacy is legacy. What they've done in the past is spectacular, but who knows what they will do in the future? And that hope and that projection is something I think very, very important, very, very important to instill in people of all ages, that human beings, unless you're dead, you don't have an expiration date. You can continue forever. And it's the only expiration date is the one that you impose on yourself, because you let society tell you something, because you let other people tell you something. But if you let your heart speak to you, and if you let your passion speak to you, then there's nothing that can stop you within your life, within what you want to achieve. And so this was always something that I was brought up with, and so it is again something normal for me to want to convey in my films.
Well, I love that. I grew up in an Italian and Spanish speaking at the same time family, and then I moved to the United States when I was 6 and had to learn English. So I understand exactly what you said. Um, Sophia Loren, she is the most iconic Italian actor in the world.
Yeah.
But to a girl from Campania, she's like a patron saint. I remember when my mom had the OG magazine where her spread, photographic spread was there. And I must have been 4 or 5 years old and constantly looking at the pictures of her. She was just so beautiful. And I think she influenced my life. But how do you direct not only this huge star, but she's your mother? How does that work?
Well, the exceptional thing of it is how um, organic it is, how seamless it is, and I think it's organic and seamless for a few reasons. Maybe one of the most important ones is that when we make a movie, we share the same agenda. We're both at the service of the story. We're both at the service of these characters. And we both want to reach, for the good of the movie, for the good of the story and the characters, the most authentic moments of truth that we can muster in the scenes. So that's very, very important. Secondly, my mother and I, temperament-wise, are very similar. We're both perfectionists. We both prepare. We're both quite diligent in the work we do. We're not people who kind of improvise things. Or when we do improvise, we prepare the improvisation. So our work ethic is also very, very similar, which is another thing which is, very important. The third thing, I think that because of these things, because of all the things that unite us, over the years, there's been built this mutual trust. Trust is very important when you make a movie, because a movie is a series of leaps of faith. Every day is a leap of faith. Every time that you create or you try to build or create an emotion is a leap of faith. And so behind the camera, there has to be somebody that she trusts, somebody that she knows will tell her the truth, unvarnished, but always with respect and kindness, and somebody that will be able to guide her in moments where, because emotions are what they are, sometimes when you're in the emotion, you can't control it. So to have somebody that can guide these emotions, and that somebody that she allows to guide these emotions. So the process is organic, the process is delicate, the process is often miraculous, because my mother sometimes kicks into a sixth gear that only she has. And so to be witness to this kind of achievement of moments when she creates them on set is really quite amazing.
I saw an interview where she said you were exasperating to work with, but I know it was tongue in cheek. And
No, I am actually. I am. And it's harder, when people ask me how is it to work with your mother, I always say it is easier for me than it is for her, because what happens when you are Sophia Loren, your average performance is already good enough. And so most directors, out of shyness, stop there because it's already very good. And because I know my mother, I know where she can go. So I'm not going to rest until she hits 11. And so it is always more difficult to work with me, but it is always also something I think that she enjoys very much because of how I push her in that way. So it is yeah.
And I heard that you made her do 12 takes of the opening kitchen scene.
Yeah, it's
True?
funny that you know that. Yes, yeah, but
Yeah, I know.
that, 12 takes for me is somebody else's 3 takes. So
Right. Switching over to Ibrahim Gouye. I don't
yeah,
think I pronounced his name
yes,
correctly.
Ibrahim Agueye.
Gouye. Ibrahima Gouye.
Yeah.
Okay. I also understand that you auditioned more than 200 actors for the role, and then you selected a few and you took them home with you for an acting boot camp. Can you explain a little bit how that worked?
Yeah, so I didn't take them home with me for an acting boot camp. Once I had chosen Ibra, then he and his family lived with us during principal photography. So that's that. But yes, what happened is that I actually saw more than 200. We saw around 350 children, all wonderful. My only prerequisite was that they be Muslim and immigrants, because it was very, very important that they understood those roots of that character. Because if you understand those roots, you can tap into those experiences better than anyone, obviously. So that was very important. So we saw all these children. I ended up picking four, including, of course, Ibra. And we put these four children through a very rigorous actors workshop to really give them the tools to be themselves, to really give them the tools to find ways to express themselves as accurately as possible. And slowly, gradually, over the course of that month, it was clear that two of the children were very, very gifted and very evocative, and one of them really, the soul of one of them aligned itself perfectly to the soul of Momo because of his empathy, because of his goodness. Momo in the second half of the movie, is really what I was looking for, and Ibra was that. Ibra was that. And then I ended up casting the other child that we were also auditioning for, Momo, as Yosef, and his name is Diego. So both the children, because they're created a very nice synergy and rapport in between them, very akin to the relationship in the movie where Ibra was more of the alpha male and he was older, and then Diego was the younger one looking up to him. So a very similar rapport as in the movie was established within these kind of 4 weeks of the actors workshop. So it was very, very interesting, and they were really wonderful. This is their first movies. I mean, I was surrounded by people for whom this was the first movie, and then my mother, who I think this is her 120th. So to be able to mitigate and to make sure that all these people were in the same movie, tonally speaking, craft wise, was a wonderful challenge to have. A wonderful challenge to have.
You almost answered my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Momo's eyes are so, his face, they're so emotive. This is one of the qualities that is natural you have to have as an actor. Like for instance, the scene where he's riding on his bicycle and he's so happy because he's practically dancing on his bicycle because he bought it and it's brand new, and then immediately he gets attacked, and the change that happens and the tears in his face, was amazing. Do you think because he was an immigrant, and it must not have been easy, I can't assume, but it must not have been easy, do you think that is the cause why he's such a good actor, because he already has had some pain through his journey?
I think that he was born a good actor. I mean, you're born with a certain talent, so God helped. But his life situation helped as well. I think also his character helped, because sometimes people who go through difficult episodes in their lives run away from them. And if you run away from them, you won't be able to tap into those things if you're an actor. And so he has the wisdom of contextualizing his life experiences, and he has the courage of tapping into them.
Right.
And so he's a very, very, and he's an old soul. He's a
Right.
very special young man.
This is something I tell my elderly students who are some of them are professional, some of them have never taken an acting class before. I tell them, you have so much life experience that for you it's easier to tap in, and they don't really know how good they are because they think, oh, I've never done it before, but I bring them to the pain, because you can't be this age and not, have had some kind of pain, and it comes through. It's wonderful. I think we have a clip, that scene where it's such a macho rendition that they're back to back. And I wonder, did you plan that, or did it organically grow to that position during
No,
rehearsals?
I planned that, and I planned also the elbow hits.
That was wonderful. And I wanted to ask, do you show your young actors the dailies, or do you think it'll be too intimidating and maybe either teach them something, or maybe it could affect their self-confidence?
Yeah. No,
Do
it's a
you,
waste of time. I don't even show my mother the dailies.
wow,
No,
okay.
no, it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of time. I don't even see the dailies. Imagine.
Oh,
I don't even see that. I might sometimes when I'm shooting, I might want to see playback of another take just to understand whether I captured that moment.
mhm.
But that night, I'm preparing the work of the next day. And if I see dailies of that day, I'll think I have failed that day. And then I will want to shoot everything again that day. So it's a complete waste of time. I believe in fate. I believe in destiny. What I shot that day is what I shot that day. Let's move on. If not, I will second guess myself. I will think it's going to be hell. Directors who have the courage to watch dailies and do it every day, I admire them. I will never have that courage.
And they bring their actors in, and then you are
God bless
paranoid
them.
and you
God
can't
bless
work
them.
the
I,
next
I, I
day.
can't. I can't do any of it. I don't watch it myself. I don't expect anybody else to watch it.
Oh, that's great. I think we have another clip of Lola.
Poeira, moleque mulato, perdido no mundo, morrendo de amor.
Lola, what a wonderful character, such dichotomy. She was supposedly a middleweight boxer, I think,
Right.
and
As a man, yes.
when hmm?
As a man,
Yes, as a man, and now she is a loving mother. And what really captivated me was when she calls Madame Rosa amore. She does it in a few scenes, and when she says amore, there's so much love and respect for Madame Rosa. It comes through, and it shows her softness. I just love this actor, Abril Zamora. How did you find
yeah.
her?
She was actually when I flew to Italy to start pre-production on the movie. I only had my mother as Madame Rosa and none of the other actors, and I was very worried for Momo, because if I can't find a good Momo, then maybe we weren't going to make the movie, because I mean everything rests on my mother's shoulders, but also his shoulders. So that was very important. And in the end, I found Momo quite easily. Yes, it was a process, but in the end, I was able to find him. The character that was very hard for me to find was Lola's character. I could not find a person that I felt was the right fit for that role. We scoured all of Italy. We couldn't find the right actress, and then I got sent this video from Spain, from Barcelona, and I saw Abril, and I thought that she was a great comedic actress, and Abril Zamora started off as Abel Zamora. So as a young man, he was already an actor, and he was a quite successful actor as a man before he transitioned into becoming Abril. And it was really, really amazing to meet her, to see how she combined this comedic sense with this dramatic sense. And like in any, there is this thing that I look for in every actor, which is this human generosity and this fearlessness to be vulnerable. And she is like that. And when I met her, I was so grateful because, you know, again, we were a week away from shooting and I hadn't found the right Lola yet. And when I found her, she was, you know, and also she established such a wonderful, you know, the dancing scene was a scene that really worried my mother, because my mother has danced a lot in a lot of her movies. And she was just nervous at 85, 86 to dance again in a movie. And the fact that she did it as fearlessly and as happily as she did is really a testament to Abril, because Abril made her feel secure in that moment. Abril says, you know, don't worry, I got you, I'll hold you, I'll be there, we'll do it together, look into my eyes. And you see that. You see that trust, you see that kind of sense of excitement of doing it, thinking that she might not do it, you know, and it was really a beautiful moment in between two actresses who learned to trust each other and to support each other at that moment.
That's great. Well, I want to talk about all the other great actors, but I think I'm running out of time. So I'm going to hand over to Cameron, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Roxanne.
Cameron?
Hi, Signor Ponte. It's very nice to meet you.
Hi
We
there.
actually have a connection. I'm in my daughter's room right now because it's the quietest room in the house. And if you look over my shoulder, you'll see on the wall
Yes.
my daughter's name. So I would not be entirely truthful if I didn't say that your mother did not influence the choice of our daughter's name. So it's very, very, very nice to meet you.
You too.
And it's very nice to meet a fellow actor. I'm a Nickel Fellow through the Academy, and I've been writing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been a ride, but it's, you know, there's so many things I want to ask, but the thing that it's really intrigued me is I'm a big fan of your dad. You know, I've been following. You know, I'm a big fan of foreign films, and the films that I feel that I've been drawn to, a lot of times I see your father's name on them. Even in different genres. In the 70s, there was a lot of interesting stuff that he did. But the two films that I'm drawn to are La Strada and Two Women. And I have to say that I feel that this film has echoes of those two films. And I wanted, if you could, speak about your father and his involvement with De Sica and Fellini and the other great directors, and being exposed to that. Has that influenced or infused, you know, your choices, or, you know, some of the way you approach filmmaking?
My dad used to ask me a question when he was alive, and I would read a script or I would write something that would always enervate me, that would really frustrate me because I never had quite the good answer for it. But it's a question that I still ask myself. And the question is, why do you want to make this movie? And the answer to that question was never because I love it, because I'm passionate. It had to have a social element to the answer. You know, why today? Why should this movie be told today? And this is something that he did very, very well. My father always captured the zeitgeist in his films, and that was really his talent. His talent was to be able to produce films that spoke to the times and do them with people that he admired and then let them do their thing. There was a lot of trust involved in my father's way of approaching his job. You know, he really created the sandbox in which these directors, these filmmakers could really express themselves at their highest level. And he really let them be. He only would come back at the end during the editing process, and he would really then he was very much involved in the editing process of many of his films, except for Dr. Zhivago, because David Lean was already an editor, so we don't touch David Lean. But everybody else, he was very much involved in that way, because it's in the editing room that you shape a film, that you make or break a film. And so he had this combination of, you know, letting the filmmakers do their thing, but then knowing when to come in and put his stamp on something.
That's wonderful. I could sit here all day and talk about the canon of your father's films, but what I'm really interested in is what's next for you. You've really you've created a film and like you said, captured the zeitgeist, and you know, and moving forward as we see all the turmoil in the world. Do you feel that you're going to draw something from the world around you, or maybe reach back into your past for the next project that you're going to be working on?
I think it's always a combination of everything. It's a combination of, a movie represents your past, your present, and your future. So it's always, a movie becomes a condensation of your impressions of the world at that time. And a movie becomes a creative manifestation of those feelings. And it doesn't mean that you have to do a movie that is completely on the nose. It can be a period piece that for some reason speaks to those issues, or it can be a musical that for some reason speaks to those issues. So this is Thomas Vinterberg, during one of those Q&As, I was asked the same question, and I said, I'm still contemplating, I'm still reflecting. And Thomas Vinterberg told me, Ingmar Bergman, when asked that question.
Oh, really, Ingmar Bergman?
Yeah, because he had spoke exactly. So he asked, he had a conversation with Thomas Vinterberg about this, and his tip to Thomas was always have your next film ready before this one comes out, because the success or the failure of your current movie should not dictate what you're going to do next. And that's a very, very good advice. When he said this, I felt very stupid at the Golden Globe Q&A, because that was not my answer. But in this case, I have 4 or 5 movies that are ready to go, but I really want to meditate and let my heart guide me towards the right one. For me, for the way that I am, I think it is very important, because every movie is really is really a chapter of my life. And these chapters need to have a significance that goes beyond themselves, but also that can be true to where I am right now in my life. So I'm drawn to many different genres. I certainly will not make a movie that is a repetition or a déjà vu version of The Life Ahead, but clearly themes that are humanistic themes that are themes of resilience, to always convey a message of, I'm an optimistic person. I believe in people. I believe in the human condition. The quote on my very first movie was one of Philo of Alexandria that says, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a great battle." So a person, I'm clearly somebody who believes in the human race. And so obviously I hope that I will continue making movies that convey that optimism. And conveying that optimism doesn't mean that you ignore the truth of who we are. It's the opposite. You embrace the truth of who you are, but at the same time, I believe in our higher angels.
Bravo, bravo. Well, listen, I could sit here and pick your brain all day, but we'd like to keep this moving. So I'd like to pass the podium to our esteemed colleague, Miss Susan Hecht.
Thank you.
Now I'm on.
Yes.
There we go. Hello. Good
Hi there.
I am going to be asking questions from our students.
Great.
And they just love the movie. And our first 2 questions have to do with the music. And I'm going to ask them together because the answer might, have similar properties. First of all, from the beginning of the project, did you see music as a central element of the film's thematic development? And that was from Lindley Sims. And then from Cecilia Gross, how did you choose Gabriel Zared for this film? We love the music in
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Well, for me, music is a central element of my life. So if it's a central element of my life, it's going to be a central element of my films. So music was always a big part because so much of how we express ourselves is through music, not only through the playing of music, but also through the listening of music and through dancing. In this movie, there are 3 dance sequences. I never thought, by the way, shooting the movie, that I would have 3 dance sequences in the movie. There was always one written, and the other 2 happened spontaneously. The one written was the one, of course, when Madame Rosa dances with Lola, but the other 2, the one when Ruspa gives the money, gives the cell phone to Momo, and then he dances in the street before he gets punched in the stomach by Nala. That was one complete improvised moment that I told Ibra, just dance there, just because he had headphones on. Just go ahead and just do your thing. And then the other one is the dance sequence with Ruspa at the bar. That was another one that I put music on the speakers on that day, and I said, you know what, we're gonna do this 3 times. We're not gonna cut. You guys start dancing, and let's see what happens. So music is an enormous part of what I do. It's an enormous way that I find inspiration. And as far as Gabriel Yared is concerned, what I normally do is when I start a movie, I purposely don't have a composer in mind because I don't want to limit myself. Because when you have a composer in mind and you hire the composer before you shoot the movie, then you're going to start using their temp music. So other music from other films to then populate your cut before he starts writing original music for you. And I don't like to do that. So what I like to do is to take for my temp track, for the music that I use for my editing, all sorts of music from all sorts of composers. I purposely really don't follow one. And then once I have all these pieces of music in the movie that I don't commit to, but that I feel is the right tone, then I think, who could do this? Who is the right composer who could kind of capture all these different genres of music? And really, there aren't that many for this movie. And really, Gabriel was, to me, the only one who could capture all these, because the movie has a very, very specific music scape. The story is told through the point of view of Momo, exclusively. This is Momo's POV, which means that also the music is told through the point of view of Momo. So that's why you start with the first cues that are very street cues, very trap beats, very contemporary cues. And then as the music of Madame Rosa enters his heart, these beats, these beatboxes get replaced by string instruments and by more acoustic orchestras. And if you listen to not the very first cue of the movie, because that's kind of a recall of, it's a reprise of the end of the movie because the movie starts at the end. But if you go to the second cue, and then you listen to the second cue, and then you listen to the very last cue of the movie, it feels like they're 2 different movies. And yet the evolution of the music is so subtle and so kind of organic and so, delicate that you don't feel the transformation. But the transformation follows the opening of Momo's heart for Madame Rosa. And when he opens his heart to Madame Rosa, what he lets in is her sensibility and, musically speaking, her music.
Well, thank you for explaining that. We were just enchanted by the music, as so almost a subplot in the movie. Yes, really. My next question here is by Mike and Judy Trevor, And they said, we thought the use of the CGI on the lion was used very effectively throughout the film. Have you used CGI before? And did you have any problems or regrets using it? Was it worth the time and costs involved?
Well, it was also worth the life because I could never put a lion with a kid in the same scene. So obviously it was also those were the true considerations were life and death considerations. But I'm actually quite proud of the lion because it's the first Italian CGI animal ever made for an Italian film.
True. Wow.
And that made me proud that and I was very, very rough with the amazing Rodolfo, who actually did all the VFX supervision, because living in America, I was like, okay, guys, let me tell you, if the Italians can't make this, I'm going to go back to America and I'll just do that from America. So the pressure was infinite and I didn't help the situation. I told them, Rodolfo, this lioness has to be real. It's a little bit like when you're pregnant. You're not a little bit pregnant. You are pregnant or you're not pregnant. This lioness has to be, she's either real or she's fake. And there's no in between. And so the pressure that he was working under was enormous, both as this being the first Italian CGI lion, but then having me as the director behind was I'm sure not easy. And he was amazing. He was so open. He was indefatigable. He was tireless in all the notes I gave him. And he really wanted to do this the right way. And we really wanted a real lioness. So it wasn't of course, she's a figment of Momo's imagination, but she has to appear real because for Momo, this is a real lioness. And I think that he did an amazing, amazing job. It was hard for Momo to act those moments, especially when the lioness licks his face, because in order to make that shot work, we needed to have a big green a shape of the head of the lioness over him, and he was acting opposite that, which is very, very difficult to act opposite something that is green, that is heavy, that is inanimate, and that is being handled by a grip who is just there chewing gum at the same time as he's giving so it's very, very difficult. And he did a wonderful, wonderful job. The work of CGI is really a dance in between the CGI makers, but also the actor acting opposite something that still doesn't exist. And so, because we didn't have money for pre-visualizations to understand how it was going to look, all these things. So he had to use his imagination. Momo did, Ibra. And he did an amazing job in that way, to use his imagination to be able to act opposite something that didn't exist yet.
We thought it was very, very effective. Before I ask the next question, I would just like to take a moment. A couple of people just wanted to express their love for the film.
Oh, thank you.
So,
thank you. That always means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
Yes. So this is from Margot Kuttner. The life ahead was fabulous on so many levels. Sophia Loren was and is the most natural actor and so credible in all her roles. You don't feel that she's acting, but just embracing the character. And this is from Jean Cohen. The Life Ahead was one of the most moving films I have seen in a long time. It contained so many signs of love, loss, pain, and most of all, compassion. There was such a gentle feeling of caring. And then one more from Ellie Karimi. I'd like to thank you for creating this film about human bonding and the healing power of love. This was a great example of how we are all connected and can help each other heal. So I wanted you to know that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
and
reading.
I have one last question here, and that is, when you were filming the outdoor scenes, did you have a problem with people wanting to see Sophia Loren, or?
No, it's interesting because there's such, yes, we had big crowds, But the crowds were very controllable because people have such an immense reverence for my mother that their group reaction is not one of chaos, it's one of silence. And it's amazing. And so they would keep as quiet as they were in some church. And they would just watch a person that has meant so much to them in their lives. And that reverence came from the respect of what my mother means to all these people individually and collectively. And it was very, very beautiful. We never had a problem, never.
Well, thank you so much for answering our questions. I think we have a few more in questions. Let's see, Catherine, did you want me to do these or did you? Let's see.
I think most of them have really been covered in some respect. Geez.
Yeah, I'll jump in here real quick.
Okay.
Edoardo, thank you. One of the comments that Susan read sparked a question, and I wonder if this was something perhaps you incorporated into the set. So the film obviously incorporates compassion and empathy, and I was wondering, as a director and as even like the producer of the film ethos, how did you incorporate compassion or empathy in the way that you interact with your actors or crew?
You know, what's very important is to show gratitude. A director is really a coach. A director is there to inspire his collaborators to reach their highest potential. But a director also has to be ready to give his movie to all the people that are working on it, so that everybody feels equally implicated, equally invested. You know, I was saying this yesterday. I was so fortunate to work with such amazing craftsmen, amazing artisans, amazing artists in this film. People that have dedicated their lives to their art, people who have invested thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours doing what they love to refine it. And the fact that this movie was the recipient of the life dedication, the life passion, the life commitment of all these people is something that animates every word I tell them and every gesture and every reaction, because they deserve it.
Thank you. I love that, and I think we'll end on that note of gratitude. So thank you for sharing your time with us today, for giving us this beautiful piece of art, to the cast and the crew and everyone behind the camera as well, in giving us beauty. So I'm so grateful for our time together today, and thank you to all of our panelists and for the time and energy. So any closing words from anyone?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bravo,
Very good.
Bravo.
Thank you for the gift of a story of love during these turbulent and difficult times of isolation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you here today. Thank you.
Very good. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend, and all our best.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. For more information about the Saddleback College Emeritus Institute, including our film critique classes, please visit our website at saddleback.edu/emeritus.